Welcome to the Masterful Coach Podcast. I'm your host, Molly Claire, and I'm here to help you master your coaching skills so you can become the confident, effective, and transformative guide your clients and your team are craving. Whether you're a coach, a high-level leader, or an ambitious go-getter ready to transform your own life, you're in the right place. On this podcast, we dive deep into the skills, mindset, and strategies that make the biggest difference when it comes to your coaching, your business, and your impact. And we do all of it while making sure that you're building a life and business that truly fits you. Let's go ahead and get started with this week's episode. All right, coaches, I'm so thrilled with today's guest, one of my favorite people, Jamie Berman, who focuses on wealth, financial abundance. We'll let her share the exact words that she would use to describe it. But Jamie is a fantastic coach who I very much, not only do I really admire her and look up to her and love her as a human being, but also she and I feel are very aligned in the ways that we approach supporting our clients through change. So we're going to have a great conversation with Jamie here. We're going to be talking about money. We're going to be talking about how we can really open up financially and really feel more powerful as a human being, as a coach, as a person running your business. So that's what we're talking about. Welcome to the podcast, Jamie.
Thank you for having me, Molly. I'm so excited to be here. And it's just a full circle moment because you were the one who trained me. You were one of the trainers at Master Coach Training. And that was one of the most pivotal moments of my career, was deepening in that work and deepening in my coaching. And so I'm just so grateful. And yeah, I'm excited for this conversation.
What a gift. Me too. Me too. Yeah, we've kind of been in the same coaching world here, and then we've kind of discovered similar things, right, as we've deepened the work, and we're gonna talk more about that today. So thank you for being here. And so tell everyone, how would you describe who you are and what you do with your clients?
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally. So I am a master certified coach, and I also have a background in spiritual psychology. So I blend everything from the mindset and nervous system along with psychology and spirituality all together into one place for growth and for expansion and really stepping into, the person that you want to be, and specifically in business. My specialty is money, and it's really something that I think came finding me. It's not like I was growing up thinking I want to work with money at all. It's not something I used to think about much, but it was just through going through my own transformational journey with it that I thought, I can't not share this. And in fact, people just started hiring me to coach them on money because they could see the transformation. And so just to give you a little backstory, growing up, I was always into spirituality, manifestation, intuition, and felt like I could manifest amazing things in my life. And I'm a big dreamer. I always had big dreams for myself, and I would go after them, starting with at 23 years old, whenever I decided to drive out to Los Angeles by myself in my little car and move out here. And I had this big dream of becoming a makeup artist. I had this vision of where I wanted to live, and found that a lot of that fell into place and I manifested it. The only thing is, I felt like I could manifest just about anything but money. I was like, oh, I can call these things in, or I could, call in a amazing home that has a low rent that I can afford. But I was always living paycheck to paycheck. I was always in scarcity. I was always stressed about money. And when I started my business, I brought all of that into it. And it was really hard for me to grow my business. And I'm not someone who's afraid of hard work. I'm not someone who, isn't, afraid of learning. I would learn all the things, and I was implementing strategies and all of this, but I felt like there was this cap. And I realized that it really had to do with my relationship with money and my relationship with worthiness and my belief in my ability to actually make money as an entrepreneur. So I decided to dive into that work myself. It wasn't like I had any idea I would ever teach this, but I decided to start a money book club just to hold me accountable to actually reading money books. Cause I was like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to read these on my own. So I better start a book club. So I forced myself to read it. If I'm hosting it, at least I'll have to read the book.
I
Read
love it.
so many money books and started doing a lot of inner work around it. I hired a coach around it, and that work really changed my life because it not only allowed me to start making money as an entrepreneur, but there's such a ripple effect when you do make money, and there's so much positive that can come about from creating more abundance, one of which is creating a sustainable business where you can, serve clients and
Mm-hmm.
continue to grow the business, right? And then also,
Mm-hmm.
it just allowed me more freedom in my life. It allowed my husband to be able to take a step aside in his career and kind of reinvent himself. And none of that would have been possible if I wasn't really willing to do that inner work around money. And
Mm-hmm.
so now I just feel very, very passionate about helping others with that and coaching others to really recognize the power that they have within to create what they want. And whether that's, financially or the vision for their business, which always
Mm-hmm.
includes money because we can't run a business without money. So we have to be
Right,
willing to have that
right.
conversation, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I love this for so many reasons. I think so often the very thing that is such a challenge for us is where our magic lies, right? It's like and what I love about this is as you're listening to Jamie's story here, it would be easy for you, Jamie, to want to figure out the money by just working harder, hustling,
Yeah.
crunching more numbers. And certainly you probably could have increased your finances that way some.
Totally. Yep.
And I love the wisdom and the awareness to say, this isn't really about this paper,
Yeah.
right? Or this metal, but
Yep.
this is really about leaning into seeing what is going on in me, what needs to be unlocked here. And what a
Yeah.
gift that you've done that because like to your point, this allows you now to have this gift, this ability, this magic in that space of finances where you
Yeah.
can help other people.
Totally. Yeah. And for me,
Yeah.
what it was I felt such a calling to be a coach. I love coaching. It is like,
Mhm.
I just, there's nothing that makes me feel more alive than when I'm coaching.
Mhm.
And so I realized if I didn't heal that, I wouldn't be able to do it because
If you're not
how am I
making
going to run
money,
a
you
business
can't
that makes
sustain
no
a business.
money? Yeah, I couldn't survive. I couldn't live. So that was really the why behind it was I was like, I want to make this coaching business work because I love it so much. And this is what I want to be doing with my life.
Yes.
So it gave me a real strong why. It wasn't just about having a bunch of money in my bank account. Of course, there's nothing wrong with that too. And there's nothing wrong with having some of
Yeah.
those luxuries in life and all of
Yeah.
that. But yeah, it was really like, it was like, okay, we're going to do this or we're not, because I don't think I can have this business without doing this
Yeah.
work, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the things I love about the work you do, and I want to bring this up but put a bit of a pin in it because I have another question to ask you first, but I just want to mention I love the spirituality aspect of what you do because I think a lot of people think of money and spirituality almost in very different places. Like if someone
Yeah.
is a spiritual person, maybe they think that also means they are a religious person. They are a, air quotes, good person.
Right.
And, and almost that the virtues that someone like that would possess would have would have almost distance from money, right?
Yeah.
Distance from that sort of temporary financial wealth. But I believe the opposite is true.
Yeah.
And I want to talk more about that. But right now, I'm just going to put that out as a teaser. So, you listening, we're going to talk about that in a minute. But before we do, um, as you were talking about wanting to be a coach and making money as a coach, having a sustainable business as a coach, I know that everyone listening to this podcast right now has a different relationship with money.
Yeah.
And I know that one of the common things that I experience, especially with coaches who identify as helpers, as givers, that they can have noise in their head around asking for money in
Yeah.
exchange for helping. And they can get pretty caught up around that. What do you say to the listener that that's what's going on for them?
Oh my gosh, I love that. Because I had that same predicament, right? Like I had
Yes,
that same thing. And there was also this thing of, but I love it. How can I get paid for something that I would do for free anyways, right? Because
right?
I loved it so much. And there's
Yes.
a couple pieces. There's actually two things that I had a breakthrough around that I always like to talk about. And the first piece is that number one, I had read the book The Big Leap, and it's by Gay
Mhm.
Hendricks, and he talks about our zone of genius. And what I realized is that oftentimes it is those things that actually light us up the most that we feel like time slows down. It's what we actually love. It's what we would do even if it was for free that are actually
Mhm.
our greatest value. It is
Yes,
what is
yes.
most valuable to others, right? So I started recognizing it not as I should give it away just because I love it, but more of like, oh, this is actually what makes me super valuable to others. This is the value I
Mhm.
provide, right?
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
just holding on to this is valuable. If I love it, if I feel very aligned with it, it means it's probably really valuable. I'm probably really good at it. So that was one piece, is holding that as valuable. And then the other piece was when I learned about this universal law of giving and receiving. And basically, what this law states is that we can only give to the amount we are also equally willing to receive. So if we block ourselves from receiving money, we're also blocking ourselves from being able to give. And we see this firsthand with coaching. And like I said, if I kept blocking myself from making money, if I held on to all those outdated beliefs about not being worthy of receiving, not being okay with taking money for this, well, then that blocks me from actually being able to serve and to help people, because a business needs money. You need that cycle of giving and receiving. So I kind of broke up with that idea when I realized, oh, that also blocks me from giving more. It's like I
Mhm.
have to have both. There has to be an equal flow. And also for the person that is hiring you, they're going to perceive it different if there's an exchange there.
Mhm.
Right. So if they are
Mhm.
exchanging money, they're going to show up completely different for themselves, for the sessions, for how they view it, than if
Mhm.
they don't have any exchange. So it's
Right.
really just, for me, I think of it as it's healthy. It's healthy
Mhm.
all around
Mhm.
to be willing to open up to receiving money in exchange for my value and for my services. And I had to
Yeah.
do some work around, I let go of the misbelief that it has to be hard in order for it to be deserving of high
Yes.
compensation. It's not
Yes.
true.
Yes.
What if, like, the more fun it is, the more aligned, the more lit up I feel, the more
Yeah.
deserving it is of compensation,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So I just
Yes.
had to do some like rewiring and kind of challenging some of those beliefs in there to see that
Yes.
this is actually the healthiest for it, is when I allow
Yes.
myself to receive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and I want to highlight a couple of things from this for those of you listening. So, one is, first, if you haven't read it, The Big Leap is a great book, and really it's one of the things it talks about in the book that Jamie's referencing here is that we can have our zone of excellence and then our zone of genius. And the zone of excellence is where I would say most achievers live,
Yeah.
and the zone of excellence is where we do something really well, like truly we can do it well, right? And and that's kind of the trap sometimes, is that if we're doing something well, that we want to stay stuck there and just keep, almost like, I feel like that's the space where you can get caught in the trap of overachieving, overworking, because we're trying to make more money or succeed more, but you can only go so far in the zone of excellence, even though
Yeah.
you're excellent at what you're doing. Then the zone of genius is really where Jamie's talking about this magical space where we are using our very greatest gifts, and it feels more open and more light, and there's more of an ease to it, and truly that's where the magic is, and that's where there's really no limit to what we can, like in air quotes, achieve or create in that space. And so as all of you are listening, I think it's important to think about that, like, and really ask yourself, kind of like Jamie's saying here, what are those things within your business, within your work you do with your clients, where it does feel effortless,
Yeah.
right? Where it you just it's almost like, I don't know if you relate to this, Jamie, but it's almost like it's like this area where we sometimes don't even realize how exceptional that thing is because it feels so easy and obvious to us,
Totally. Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And so, all of you listening, you have that. So, watch for it, watch for it,
Yeah.
watch for it. The other thing that I wanted to mention after what Jamie was sharing is, this idea of giving and receiving, because I know one of the things that, in master coach training, of course, we're talking about these different areas of, right, our cognition, the way we think, our emotions, our nervous system, and and my favorite part about the program is like the expansion of our capacity within our emotions, right? To truly be with our emotions. And I know that can be a kind of an ambiguous thing to say, but this came to mind because one of the ways I think about this giving and receiving is it's like if if I am if I am struggling to receive, right? If that feels uncomfortable to me, if I feel undeserving, if I feel guilty, it's almost like there are emotions there that I'm not really taking the time to look at and be with and understand, right? And so, therefore, it is a limit in that receiving, and that limits my capacity across the board, right?
Yeah.
My capacity to understand, my capacity for compassion, for love, for empathy. And so, it's almost like in this, where any of you listening, if you struggle to receive, um, it really is worth taking a look at what are the beliefs there, right? Or
Mhm.
what are the emotions that feel uncomfortable, and would I be willing to open up to understanding them so that capacity can be expanded, right? Because when we have
Yeah.
that increase in capacity, I can say this for me for sure, I have that greater capacity with my clients, right? To see them better, to see them and understand them more deeply. And the expansion has to go all the way around, right?
Sure does.
Yeah.
Yes, totally. 100%. And one of the
Mm.
practices that I did just so that it didn't feel so overwhelming was I would start small and work with it, even though I would hit my edge and it felt uncomfortable. I would look at what felt uncomfortable, but I would practice overcoming it with things like receiving a compliment or
Yes.
a friend
Yeah.
saying, "Oh, I got dinner." I used to reject that. And I would say, "Oh, no, no, it's okay. Let's let it, like, no, 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 I got it." And so I had to
Hmm.
work with it with the little things first. And that really helped me to grow into it and realize that I could get comfortable with it and I could accept it. And practicing accepting it was
Hmm.
really powerful.
Yes, yes. I love that. And something else that brought to mind for me, which was like a little trick I guess I used for myself, is, I started noticing how I started really enjoying paying people for services that I
Yeah.
appreciated, that they did well. And it was almost like when I was able to really appreciate the value people were adding and joyfully, reward them financially, it it made it easier for me to receive because I thought,
Yeah.
well, there are other people that feel the same way about the service, the value I'm offering, right? So I do think there's a lot
Yes.
of value in just these little things that can challenge our mind.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. So
Yeah.
good.
So I want to talk a little bit about this spiritual piece. And and so as I was just I know Jamie and I were chatting right before we started recording, and I was telling her it's so funny because we're right now in MCT Master Coach Training. Talking about we're in the financial module. That's what we're talking about. And it's like we go through the different facets of how to approach this, and I don't use the word spirituality there, but one of the things that I do speak to that for me maybe this is the connection there, so I'm interested to talk about this with you. But I think that we feeling in alignment with money, understanding who am I, like what is my purpose, and how is money a part of this equation, and kind of checking in on that. So that's one piece of it, and of course there are more things to it, but I would love to know for you, how do you describe the relationship between money, financial abundance, and our spirituality? Because I think there's such a beautiful
Yeah.
connection that we miss.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I love
Yeah,
this question. So
yeah.
I don't really see them as separate, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I see spirituality as, for me, the way that I kind of define it is a connection to whatever word you use, whether that's
Yeah.
higher self, intuition, God, source, right? Just a
Mm-hmm.
connection to something that's bigger than the ego, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
believe that in order to create money, that's what I had to do was connect to something greater than my little ego, because my little ego didn't think that I was deserving or capable or all of these things. And I know that that goodness that is all around us, the spirituality, wants nothing but the best for me. That's the belief that I carry, is like it wants
Mm-hmm.
nothing but the best for me. It wants
Mm-hmm.
whatever I desire is something that was put in my heart, I believe, by something
Mm-hmm.
greater than me that I am meant to create, I'm meant to manifest, I'm meant to play out for my evolution. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think money can just be such a piece of that. And honestly, I just see money as a resource that we can use just like any resource, just like Wi-Fi, right? Wi-Fi is a resource. We can get online and we can use it for good. We can put beautiful things out into the world. We can also get online and be a cyber bully, right? Like it's not the Wi-Fi that is creating who we're being, right? It's just
Yes.
like money is the same way. It's a resource. And if you are tapped into spirituality, into goodness, into kindness, into love, you will use money to do beautiful things in the world because it's a resource that can be used for so much good. In fact, it's probably the most, other than like emotions like love, it's probably the most valuable resource that we have in this world. So look at what you can do with money. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
look at how you can give, how you can support
Mm-hmm.
others, how you can employ others. And I just started
Mm-hmm.
questioning this idea that in order to be spiritual, I had to not have money. And
Have
I'm
less
like,
money for
how?
some
Yeah, less
reason.
money. I'm
Who made
like,
up
oh,
that
that's
rule?
right. Exactly. It's like, well, then I wouldn't be able to have my team who they've created jobs because of that, right? Like you said,
Mm-hmm.
and that's something that's
Mm-hmm.
their zone of genius and that they love. And I wouldn't be able to do that. I also
Yes.
wouldn't be able to have, my gardeners that is their zone of, like, I would have to fire
Mm-hmm.
people. And that's blocking abundance. That's blocking the flow. So I wouldn't be
Mm-hmm.
putting money out into the world in a positive way. And I also just realized, like, I think a big part of why a lot of people believe that money is greedy or wrong or, wrong to have is they see it as like this pie, like it's this concrete thing. And if I take a piece of the pie, someone else has less.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had to start questioning that too, because I realized like the person down the street who doesn't have as much money is not going to be affected if I limit myself. If
Mhm.
I limit myself,
Mhm.
that's not going to serve someone else. Money
Mhm.
doesn't work that
Mhm.
way. It's not a pie. It's
Mm-mm.
not like if I take a slice of pie, someone else is not going to have a slice. It just doesn't work
No,
that
it
way
was
because
made up to begin with,
a
right?
hundred
It's
percent.
that's the funny thing about money is we act like it's the most concrete thing, and
Yes.
it was invented.
Yeah.
And yeah, as you so one of the things as Jamie was talking about it being a resource, one of the things that I love to do in in my work with my clients and encourage, I think as coaches we have this opportunity to help our clients know who they are, truly know who they are, understand what they're about and what they value and align their life with that. And money is one more way that we bring forth what is within us, right? What we spend our money on shows what we value. And that's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful way to have a tangible way of saying, I love this, I value this.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I just think there's a lot of power in it. And I had one other thought, but it left my brain. Maybe you have something. Maybe you have something to share while I find this thought that must be
Yeah. Well,
important.
yeah. And I would just give for the person who, which is a lot of people, right? Because I know, because I coach on this, and I know a lot of people feel
Mm-hmm.
guilty desiring money or making more money. And one of the exercises that I like to assign to people is just if you had more money, what would you do with it? Write it out,
Mm-hmm.
right? What would you
Mm-hmm.
do if you were given $1 million, right? What would you do with that money? And take a look at it. My hunch is that it would only be things that are creating a positive ripple effect in the world. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think that's a helpful exercise in seeing, like, oh, what do I value? And looking at how that can create beauty and how it's not a bad thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. And that did help me remember what I was also thinking, which is, I think that when you were talking earlier about how we can think of money as something to do with greed
Mm.
or power or some of these negative connotations or negative things we relate to money, those are really more about fears than money,
Yeah.
right? And so when someone is greedy, when someone is stingy, when someone is trying to withhold from someone financially, that's about fear. And
Yeah.
so and that's why, right, whether it's lack of money, whether it's hoarding of money, any kind of money behaviors that are, less than desirable, or money circumstances that are less than desirable, really attending to and caring for the fears within us and having healing is the solution to it. Period. It's just the solution across the board.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
100%. When you heal your relationship with money, right? That's what it's about is deciding on purpose and being intentional, right? Because
Yeah.
it's not like money is just going to make you become that. Or if you already are in a place where there's fear or there's greed, that's an inner working, right? Like you said,
Yep.
that's a healing opportunity, but money isn't really affecting that. Money
Yeah.
doesn't make you something that's not already there.
No. And I think one thing that's also really important to mention, all those of you listening, especially if you're having, thoughts of self criticism or judgment about the way you think or feel about money. I mean, the reality is that we all have experiences with money. And these experiences, they make imprints on our nervous system. They are very real things that exist within us that need to be attended to. So if you're having any of that noise come up, just know that you're not alone. And the beauty is that healing is possible as we understand, right, our own human biology and psychology and how it all fits together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, Jamie, as we wrap up in just a minute, I want you to tell everyone how they can find you. But before we do, any last, parting words, tips, anything else you'd like to share before we wrap up?
Absolutely. I would say if you have a calling in your heart to do this kind of work, it is absolutely worth it, especially as an entrepreneur. And I think a lot of people tend to be scared of it. But what I would consider is, what if it doesn't have to be heavy looking at this stuff? What if you can
Yeah.
have fun with it? What if you can hold all of this healing work around money with a light touch, just so that you're not scared of diving into that piece? Because
Mm-hmm.
I know for me, I avoided it for so many years because I thought it was just going to bring up so much, or it was going to be so triggering. And what I realized is I just did it little by little, like 1% more each day. And that's
Yeah.
what allowed, I mean, so much can change from just that. So I would
Yeah.
just encourage you not to be afraid or avoidant of it, because it really can be an amazing journey going about
Yeah.
this and create beautiful
Yes.
things too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. It's such an honor to have you here because I think money is such an important topic. It's an important topic for us as human beings, as entrepreneurs. I know I have so many female listeners. It's such an important topic, and I appreciate bringing you here because I know that you're a person of like depth and alignment with your values and integrity, and so it means all the more coming from you. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Molly. I
Yeah. Yeah.
appreciate it.
Okay, Jamie, how do the people find you? I know everything is in the show notes, of course, but tell people where can they
Yeah.
find you?
Perfect. So I am on Instagram at Jamie Berman _. I love hanging out on Instagram. So you can come find me there, send a message, say hi, let me know if anything resonated. And then I also have a podcast too. It's called Money, Manifestation, and Business. And so I talk all of these things with, money specifically as my main topic on that podcast. So come listen if you feel intrigued by it. And I'm at jamieberman.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
And
Molly.
thank you, everyone, for being here. Take this in, allow this to kind of percolate in your mind. And if you're feeling called to begin healing your relationship with money, take these words to heart from Jamie. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be all at once. It doesn't have to be heavy. Just lean in and trust that healing is there because, in my experience, it's always, always worth it. So, all right, I'll talk with you all next week. That's it for today's episode of the Masterful Coach podcast. If you found this valuable, make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you take a moment to leave a review, I would truly appreciate it. It helps more coaches and leaders find this podcast so they can grow right alongside us. Make sure to check out www.mollyclaire.com for the latest offerings in advanced trainings and coaching mastery. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk with you next week.